Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Today on CityCast Boise, local Cybertruck owners are being shamed and their cars are being vandalized. Is it justified backlash or does it cross the line? Meanwhile, lawmakers quietly ended pool inspections, raising questions about safety. And Idaho Gives is closing out strong, while a local foundation helps students thanks to the Hokey Pokey. It's Friday, May 2nd. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Happy Friday once again, and joining me this week is host and reporter at KTVB, Brian Holmes. Thanks for joining me again, Brian.
Great to be here, Lindsay. Thanks for having me.
I definitely wanted to have you on after seeing a piece you did on Cybertruck drivers in the Treasure Valley. And I think lots of people have lots of feelings, lots of opinions on this, but I want to jump in by asking, what was really your takeaway from this story that people in Cybertrucks are getting their cars scratched, people are flipping them off. They seem to get a lot of hate while they're driving. What was kind of your takeaway from that?
Yeah, I guess the takeaway for me is the animosity towards Cybertrucks has kind of gone back a few years. This isn't something that's brand new because I know when they first came out, people looked at them and thought, what is that? They didn't like the look of them. They thought they were just weird and even all of the videos you've probably seen online about how they don't do what they say they're going to do, that kind of stuff. So there's been a lot of pushback on the Cybertruck since, they first started coming out. But when Elon Musk, who of course is the CEO of Tesla, started getting involved in politics in Washington, D.C., people started then taking it upon themselves to protest what he was doing by going to Tesla dealerships. And that kind of happened here locally back on March 29th. They decided they were going to stage a protest outside the dealership in Meridian. About 30 people showed up. But the other side of that is about 200 counter-protesters showed up at this March 29th rally, I guess. And they called themselves the troublemakers or the disruption project, the people that showed up to protest what Elon Musk was doing in the federal government. And that kind of spiraled out of control that day. I guess somebody was hit by a car. One of the counter-protesters was hit by a car and things kind of went sideways. And there was a citation given to a 70-year-old man for doing that This guy who he hit was driving a truck with Trump flags on it. He made some obscene gesture, which I'm sure was the middle finger, when the guy got out of his car, and it just kind of went that way. So anyway, these protests have been happening. There was another one that happened on April 12th. But then prior to that, there was vandalism that happened at the dealership. I think 16 of these Cybertrucks had red spray paint on them. The word Nazi was spray painted on the building, $144,000 in damages at this building. I don't know if I still think that person is still out there looking for him. But anyway, so this is just kind of escalated with what's going on in DC and Elon Musk. And then Hunter Funk did this story talking to a couple of Tesla owners. One of them drives for Uber, and he has been picking up people in his Cybertruck and getting all kinds of feedback, not necessarily the good kind. In fact, even one of the people that he picked up was a woman who asked his opinion on Elon Musk. We didn't want to get into that conversation. She ended up giving him a 1 rating, not for anything other than driving a Cybertruck. So it's that kind of stuff. Other people have said, and in this report, just driving around town, you get the middle finger a lot. You get people who pull up next to you at a stoplight and want to engage, harass, antagonize, that kind of stuff. It is just kind of taken, I guess, a turn when it comes to, those trucks are ugly. They don't do what they're supposed to do, to now it's become political and very, very, in some cases, violent.
Yeah. And I'm really curious what your thoughts are. I guess to me, I feel like this is a natural progression of events when you have a society like ours where identity is heavily tied to our consumption. And so, the brands you wear, the styles of clothes you get, everything is a status marker or a marker of success. And with these Cybertrucks, I mean, my own personal opinion, it looks like what you build with Legos when you don't have directions.
Right.
So I can only think of a few reasons why people wanted them. And it was either because of Elon, who is heavily tied to the Tesla brand, like that association with Elon, or because they liked the association with the Tesla brand, the status symbol of a Tesla. And so how much of this do you feel like is when you tie a company's identity so closely to someone who then Sieg Heils publicly, how much of this feels like a natural reaction to that, given what our society is?
And that's kind of some of the messages we got after we aired this story was like, look, you chose to drive this truck. You knew what you were getting into. Now, granted, some of these people have had them for years, but there has been a big push for people to buy them because of its connection to Elon Musk and because of the status symbol that goes along with it. So yeah, there is that take of you knew what you're getting into. You kind of asked for it. Now, when you cross the line over into vandalism and that kind of stuff, that's a whole other ballgame. But there is that take of, look, if you're gonna drive around with a Trump flag on your car, you're probably gonna take some heat for that from some people. You're gonna drive around with a Tesla in a Tesla Cybertruck, you're gonna take some heat. My question is it just the truck? I don't think the car owners are getting these kind of responses.
I don't have a Tesla, so I don't know, but I do know I've seen a lot more of the stickers that say like,
right,
I bought this Tesla pre-2020. I bought this Tesla, 2019. Please don't hate me. And then like a rainbow flag or like a, something like, please save the earth. I didn't buy it because of Elon. I bought it because it was an electric vehicle. So I am really curious if Tesla owners feel like they're getting some heat also, because I didn't really see those stickers before the election, and now I feel like I do see them more. Have you seen an increase in that, or have you heard anything about?
Stickers. Yeah, and I mean, just like anybody who drives around with a California license plate these days that says, this is a rental, I'm not from California, that kind of stuff. They really kind of have to put it out there because they're worried that people are going to take it the wrong way, that it is a political statement. And yes, you've seen the stickers. It's economical decision, not political, that kind of stuff. So there is that. Yeah, so you have it. I just don't know that it's gone to the extent of the vandalism. And it's specifically targeting the Tesla Cybertrucks. And that's, we've seen that outside with the one that blew up in Vegas over the New Year's holiday, all that kind of stuff. It's just that's been the focus, I think. I don't think the cars themselves and the drivers of the cars have seen that kind of reaction.
Yeah, no, it definitely, there is, I mean, we have police in New York City who are guarding Cybertrucks, not just random Teslas. So no, I would say that's probably just your average Tesla car driver isn't receiving as much heat. Do you think it's because Cybertrucks are so visible? Like you can see them coming a mile away. Like, yeah, it's very apparent when you're seeing a Cybertruck. Do you think that's part of why the drivers of Cybertrucks and Cybertrucks themselves are getting so much of this anger and vandalism?
And I think it is because a lot of them draw attention to themselves. I know I've seen a couple of things on social media where people say they got it just for that reason and are touting that, I'm supporting Elon Musk and I'm supporting this. And a Cybertruck is just kind of a bit of toxic masculinity, I think.
I'd agree with that.
It's just dudes who are buying these things, and some people are painting them to look like armored vehicles or whatever, and putting some designs on them and making them look kind of more rugged than they actually are. And so I think that's kind of the case of that. And so I think there are those who say, I'm proud and I want to support what's going on in DC, and I want to support Elon Musk. And so when we see these protests popping up around town, of course, some of that is a lot of that is pushback towards Elon Musk. And the closest connection to that would be his Tesla company.
And you mentioned the vandalism, and I'm curious where we have this society based on consumption. Our identity is in a lot of ways derived by whether, the people who chose to buy Cybertrucks did so, in my opinion, for a status symbol or association with Elon or Tesla. What are your thoughts about the idea that a boycott or shame associated with that is a way for consumers to push back, especially when like a CEO has done something that is not societally acceptable?
Well, I think you're seeing that already with the stock prices, and there's talk of replacing Elon Musk as CEO by the board, that kind of stuff. I think the pushback has happened, and the animosity and people not wanting to buy those cars because they don't want to be connected to it. like we already talked about, people were buying them before because, they were considered good cars, at least the car part, not necessarily the Cybertruck, but the car was electric. You were doing something for the environment. You felt like you were saving money on gas or at all because you weren't buying any, but there was that part of it. And now it is I don't want to be associated with that because then I'm afraid, there's a bit of a fear factor with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the part I wrestle with, because I have very conflicted feelings about even honestly the vandalism, because it's not like Elon said, I want a flat tax rather than a graduated tax. Like he did a Sieg Heil salute, which in our society, in the entire world, signifies genocide, ethnic cleansing. Like it is associated with the worst of humanity. And so when you have somebody do that and then you see pushback, like what is the appropriate level of pushback if somebody is advocating for some really heinous things, or at least modeling behavior that is associated with very heinous things?
I think one of the people that Hunter spoke with kind of made it a good point like this. Flipping me off is not going to hurt Elon Musk one bit. Yelling at me at the stoplight isn't going to get back to Elon, and he's going to change his ways. The vandalism of a local dealership isn't necessarily going to get back to Elon Musk, and all of a sudden there's going to have an awakening and things are going to change. But it does get attention. That's the kind of thing that I think people are looking for. Is this makes the news? It makes national news. And the stock prices and the shareholders all kind of have to go, wait a second, what are we getting involved in? And so it does have a trickle-down effect in that sense. What that line is, though, I would have to say, I'm not on the side of vandalism. I'll say that. But people have the right to say what they want when they're driving down the road. Not running somebody off the road, not tailgating, not causing anybody any harm or danger. But if your idea of saying who you represent or who you want to represent is the car you drive, you're probably going to get some of that.
Mother's Day is coming up, and if you're still searching for a gift that's meaningful and might even make her cry those happy tears, let me save you some time. Get her an Aura digital picture frame. With Aura digital frames, you can preload before you gift with decades of family memories, so it's personal right out of the box. It plays live photos and up to 30-second videos with audio. And you can invite your whole family to contribute, so she's not just getting a frame, she's getting a living scrapbook from the people she loves most. Aura's been featured in hundreds of gift guides this year and named #1 digital frame by Wirecutter and Forbes. There's no subscription, no storage limits, and no complicated setup. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off, plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver mat frame. That's auraframes.com, promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey CityCast, something I appreciate about the Cozy Earth Mother's Day sale is that they know motherhood looks different on everyone. So whether you're raising kids, dogs, or Kane, all moms work hard and they deserve comfort. So let me tell you about these Cozy Earth sheets. They feel like cool water in a sort of, is this the Ritz-Carlton or my own bedroom kind of way. The pajamas are what I imagine celebrity moms sleep in, buttery soft. You're looking for the right gift because the women who raised you feel like home, and they are going to love Cozy Earth bamboo pajamas, and I know this because it's 3:24 p.m. and I'm still wearing mine. To celebrate moms everywhere, Cozy Earth is supporting your favorite local podcast and giving our listeners a special promo. 45% off site-wide. This is a luxury brand, and that is a mind-blowing deal. Use Cozy Boise to take advantage of 45% off at CozyEarth.com.
Okay, I know that's a very heated topic. I'm sure some listeners are feeling very strong feelings. So let's cool off a little bit. Let's talk about pools. And, the weather's starting to get a little nicer. I'm excited to go to a pool soon. But maybe not all summer, maybe just until July 1st, because after that, it is unclear about whether Idaho will be having any public pool inspections. Brian, how did this happen?
Okay, so this past legislative session, like deregulation and has been a big I guess, point of Governor Brad Little. He wants to deregulate and kind of get rid of a bunch of unnecessary laws on the books. So there was a bill, a long bill, a 21-page bill that was passed, House Bill 202 this past session, that was kind of cleaning up some regulatory stuff, some words where the Department of Health and Welfare had some responsibilities listed that they really didn't do anymore because they had just kind of shifted some things. So they were cleaning some things up. But in the middle of this, on page 18 of this bill, there was a cross-out section that basically said pool inspections, public pool inspections will no longer be the responsibility of the Department of Health and Welfare. Therefore, the health districts, the local health districts, not going to do that. So it just scratched it out. It didn't say we're going to pass it on and make sure that somebody else is responsible for it. It just said there's no more requirement for this to happen. And everybody just kind of went along with it. Again, it's a 21-page bill, but I think there was one vote against it in the Senate, and that was Senator Melissa Wintrow. Mm-hmm. Everybody else said, let's go for it. But it was one of those things with the unintended consequences, because once the health districts kind of got a look at it, and they said, wait a second, we don't have to inspect swimming pools anymore? And we're talking public pools, like the Boise pool that you take your kids to, Ivy Wild. There's a bunch.
So something I'm curious about too, it specifically said pools, but I'm wondering, does it also apply to like splash pads and these public water play areas? Who was inspecting those? And would those also be covered, or are those not going to be inspected either?
That's a very good question. I would assume those are under Parks and Rec, which is what the city pools are also. I would assume that's included. What they were inspecting was like the water quality, the bathrooms, the structural integrity of these pools. Those are the kind of things they were inspecting. Splash pads, I mean, that's kind of it's less of a danger of, leakage or even chlorine levels, that kind of stuff, with bacteria. There are those things, but it's more of an open air space. So I'm not sure about that, but I do know that there is a lot of possibility for sickness in a pool, or a pool that has a hot tub, any of that kind of stuff that is not getting inspected. So now it is basically a voluntary inspection. Public pools, you would think, like the city of Boise, they would want to have a clean, safe pool for your kids to play in. They're going to keep up with that. But maybe there's a pool out there. I mean, they're in Roaring Springs. They have the same kind of thing. This is all kind of under the same umbrella. What that line is and what voluntary means is still left up to interpretation.
And was there any debate about this during the session? I don't remember this coming up in any way where people were talking about it a lot. Did they debate this at all, or does it seem like it just kind of flew under the radar?
It just kind of, it flew under the radar. Again, it was nearly unanimous. So everybody's like, oh, yeah, let's clean up some language. Let's get rid of some stuff that's unnecessary. Yeah, we're all for that. And 21 pages, to be honest, it was House Bill 202, middle of the session. They were just like, okay, sounds good. You're telling me this is what it is. I don't have to read it all the way through. And they just went with it. So no, I didn't see much debate on this at all. It didn't make any news until all of a sudden people went, wait, pool season's coming up at the end of this month. And then July 1st is going to hit. And all of a sudden, those regulations aren't going to be so strict.
Yeah. Shout out to George Prentice at Boise State Public Radio. Yeah. I believe he was the first one to really scoop this story. And just to clarify, will water be tested? Are they going to be testing for E. coli and things like that? Will that still be happening? It's just and not just because it's still dangerous. I would like the pools that I'm at and my children are at to be inspected, but will water quality be assured or tested? Because it seems like there's E. coli outbreaks every year. So are we going to be testing for that, or just at your own risk? Well,
the E. coli outbreaks usually come from the public ponds that people are swimming in, not necessarily the pools. But now you're left with this question as a parent. Now I feel like I should ask, hey, do you guys have regular inspections? As opposed to just assuming that they did because you thought, well, it's a public pool, there have to be standards, right? I can't just send my kid out here and think he's going to come home with some itchy skin and be like, what's going on? And you'll know what it is. But you just have to now ask, do you guys have regular inspections? How often? And what are they looking for? Because it is also food facilities that they inspect when they go in. When you drop your kid off and give them $5, or now these days probably $10 to get some lunch, you don't know what that food service is going to be like because that is no longer inspected. So you're relying on the pools and the people who run the pools to kind of go, yeah, we should probably do this, and then put up a sign that says, we've been inspected. I don't know, to let people know this is a safe space.
Well, and what will those inspections, that's always my concern is it's kind of like the companies who are like, we're 100% fresh. Okay, but that doesn't mean anything. There's not like a standard of, freshness. So that's like me saying like, I have certified my house is the cleanest in the Treasure Valley. It doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And so now we'll just be all these individual pools like saying like, we have decided that we are inspected enough. And I don't know. I like when there's standards for things that can be dangerous or gross like that. And that's one year when we were my kids would play at the splash pads when they were little. And we did get a call like, oh, there's been E. coli. And like, just to let everyone know, I think we'd purchased something. So they were like, oh, we knew you were there. We're just letting people know. So that's why I was concerned is like, there are E. coli outbreaks at like the splash pads, all those little kids in their little swim diapers. And so I just am concerned about what will be being inspected and what will not be being inspected.
Well, what happened was with Central District Health specifically, they cover Boise, Ada, Elmore, and Valley counties. And they inspected prior to July 1st or at the same time. They inspect 36 public pools every year. They go in prior to, in the middle of, and at the end, and periodically look at them and make sure they're good. The thing that gets me is like the Senator Julie Van Orden, the one that sponsored this bill, said when this was going through that, we're not really building big swimming pools anymore in these communities. So there's not really a need to have this part of the responsibility of health districts to inspect public pools. But what about the ones that exist now? And this place is growing. These public pools, people want to have a place to go in the summer that isn't the river, that isn't an overcrowded beach at some pond. They're building pools where these places are going to be. And so now that responsibility is just kind of, like I said, it's now voluntary. And you just have to hope that anybody that opens one or runs one is going to be like, yeah, let's follow these rules. Or let's follow standards we feel like should be in place.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts, guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place. For changes big and small. Loud or quiet. Find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Okay, Brian, I wanted to round out with something a little happier, a little better. We don't always get that here. So when something good is happening, I definitely want to highlight it. And this week was Idaho Gives from April 28th to May 1st. We're recording this Thursday morning. So when listeners are hearing, it will be over. But that doesn't mean like you can't give to organizations that you want to support. It just means this official campaign will be over. But as of the time we're recording, almost 10,000 people have donated $3.5 million. Over $3.5 million has been donated to 621 organizations. And I just think that's amazing. I love how giving the people of Idaho are to these organizations that help our area, that we rely on and that we love. It just really fosters a sense of community right now that we are helping each other. Even when things are tough, even when things are hectic, we want to look out for each other.
Yeah, exactly. And it says a lot about the community and about Idaho. And this was something that started as a one-day thing many, many years ago and has now expanded to several days because they knew that people would continue to do that and made it go. And so I think they've been doing it, 13 years now? This would be the 13th. Mm-hmm. $31 million has been donated in that time span. $31 million to nonprofits all over the state, from anything from, the Bully Project, that's the one that takes care of, big breeds, the dogs that don't really get a lot of attention, to the Idaho Food Bank. I mean, everybody kind of just scatters it everywhere, which is pretty amazing. And they've been doing it this long.
And it's all over the state. I was actually going through the list of nonprofits this morning, and it's after school programs in Rexburg and, different library programs in North Idaho. Like it's this kind of really unique time where I feel like the state comes together to really give back. I know it's Idaho Gives, duh. But like we are all coming together in this in a time where I do feel like there's a lot of division. Clearly, we were just talking in the conversations we just had earlier in this episode. There's just a lot of division. There are a lot of strong feelings of anger or even hate about some things. But when we ask the community, hey, can you give? Can you support these organizations? That is still an Idaho value.
It is, absolutely. You know what brings people together, Lindsay? The Hokey Pokey brings people together.
Oh, okay. That's
something
true.
I learned this week. And there's a connection to Idaho Gives because Idaho Gives is run by the Idaho Community Foundation. And so there's an Idaho connection to the Hokey Pokey. I don't know if you heard this story.
I don't know this story.
Okay, so you know the Hokey Pokey, obviously.
I do. I was in kindergarten.
Yes, and even adults. There are people who still do it. So apparently back in the 40s, this Ram Trio, the Ram restaurant is in Sun Valley Resort. There was a band there, a three-piece band, and they decided they needed to come up with a song that would get people out of their seats, get out onto the floor, and get people dancing and kind of playing along with them. And this guy, Larry LaPrise, the Sun Valley Trio is what they ended up being called, but the Ram Trio, Charles McCack, Taft Baker, Larry LaPrise. Larry LaPrise wrote this song called The Hokey Pokey. And he then recorded it in Sun Valley in 1949. And it didn't do so well, but problem was there was another recording back east. Somebody in the Poconos put together some very similar song in 1946. There was a lawsuit. Larry LaPrise ended up winning the rights to the Hokey Pokey. And the one you probably know about is when the Ray Anthony Orchestra then took it in 1953, made it very big, and just kind of went nuts. Cutting to the chase here, Larry LaPrise passed away in 1996. He had these rights. His family then gave the royalties, signed it over to the Idaho Community Foundation, and set up a Hokey Pokey Scholarship Fund, meaning all the royalties that they would get from this song over the years, sometimes it's $3,000 a year, would go into this fund, and they would pay for second-year music students at the College of Southern Idaho.
No way.
And that's kind of what they've been doing. Yeah. And so, like I said, you hear it on commercials. I think it was in a Velveeta commercial. Remember the Elmo doll, the Tickle Me Elmo doll?
Absolutely. That was a key moment in my childhood.
Yeah. So when he came out with a Hokey Pokey version of that, they put a lot of money into this fund. And so that is kind of how the Hokey Pokey is connected to Idaho, giving back to Idaho, and connected to this Idaho Community Foundation.
I cannot. Okay, so the Hokey Pokey was born in Idaho. We need to promote that more, I feel like.
Well, that's the thing. There's a little bit of controversy, though, because the tune goes back centuries. Like, there are claims to it that it goes back to a Canadian miner song about cocaine called the Kokey Kokey.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes. And then in World War II, or during World War II, there was a guy named Jimmy Kennedy who basically crafted this song to get people dancing for Canadian troops that were stationed in London. And he called it the Hokey Kokey based on the Kokey Kokey song. So there's a lot of controversy to where it began, but just know that Larry LaPrise had the rights to the American version, and he was in Sun Valley at the time and then died in 1996, and now it is part of Idaho forever.
I absolutely love that foundation exists. I am surprised, but I think I shouldn't be. Like, Ring Around the Rosie was about the Black Flag. Why did I think the Hokey Pokey wouldn't be about cocaine? So
exactly. And I like that there are College of Southern Idaho students who said, yeah, my tuition was paid for by the Hokey Pokey.
I love that. No, that is phenomenal. I hope they get like a little like a
pin.
Yeah, like a pin or like some kind of a patch or something when they graduate. It says the Hokey Pokey.
I put it all in. Yeah.
Oh, Brian, well, thank you so much. That is such a cool story. And I think just the perfect way to round out this Friday News Roundup. So thank you so much for joining me again.
It's been a pleasure. I love doing this. So thank you very much for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. The show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, and me, Lindsay Van Allen. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter, and our theme music is by Up Is the Down Is the, with additional music from All the Kimonos and Sven Lindvall. If you enjoyed our show today, leave us a review. It helps other people find us. We'll be back on Monday with a look at some of the hidden dangers of construction in Boise. Catch you then.